Hi everybody, my name is Rob and I am a transgender man. I may not sound like a man yet, but if you follow this Trans 101 series, you will hear my voice changing from part to part. This first part will give you the very basics, and all following parts of the series will always build on this one. The Trans 101 series is for educational purpose, to counter misinformation, and to give a voice to the transgender community. The Trans 101 series by Finally Rob may be used by anyone for educational purpose. Please feel free to share this video or to use it in order to educate yourself and or those around you. For business inquiries, please email me at finalyrob@gmail.com or message me via YouTube. And now, let's jump in. So again, welcome to the Trans 101 Part 1, and this is the intro. We will be going through just some brief explanation what the LGBT plus actually means, what transgender means, some facts and figures, importance of respect and acceptance, pronouns and names, some do's and don'ts, and of course there's space for questions in the comment section. So if we go through the abbreviation, we start with the L, which stands for lesbian, which is a sexual orientation, meaning a romantic and or sexual interest in women by a woman. Then we have gay, which is also a sexual orientation, which means a man is interested in a man sexually and or romantically, and both of these are also called homosexual. B is bisexual, which is again a sexual orientation, meaning that a woman could be interested in both men and women, or vice versa, a man could be interested in both men and women. Then we have transgender, which is not a sexual orientation, but it is a gender identity, and therefore it doesn't have anything to do with who you love. And then we have the plus, and the plus covers a lot of things. The abbreviation is growing, so I am covering just a few of them. For example, the Q for queer, it's an umbrella term for the whole community. I for intersex, which is a medical condition. A for asexual, which means you don't have a sexual interest or very little. And there are many more things that fit in there. And why are all of these together, united and fighting a fight? It is because we all have very similar goals. We all want acceptance. We want equal rights like legal marriage. We want to be treated just and normal. And we want some access to healthcare when we need it. So those are just a few of the goals that we all have together, and that's why we are grouping up. So what does transgender actually mean? So there is a very common definition, meaning a transgender person does not identify with the sex assigned at birth. So when you were born, a doctor looked between your legs and said that you're a girl or a boy, or in the very rare condition for intersex, usually the parents will then choose. Then we have the binary transgender person, which means you identify either male or female. So you would be a male to female or MTF transgender person, or you will be a FTM, female to male transgender person. And then we have non-binary, which is more of a gender spectrum. We are just going to say for now anywhere in between the male and female binary, or you don't identify at all. That would be non-binary. And then we have transsexuals. That would be basically a subgroup of transgender, those people who medically also transitioned. So now a little bit more detail on what transgender means. So we have the DSM, which is a manual for mental illnesses. And then there's science, which is not the same as in the social sense. So let's go into this. What does it actually mean? So for the DSM, for science, we're going for why do transgender people exist? How does it happen that somebody turns out to be transgender? There's a lot of research, a lot of peer review, and a lot of medical support. Then we have the social side of this, which means that we have a personal aspect, that I identify not as a woman but as a man, and that society should be accepting me, that I would like my equal rights, and that I would like to be accepted as who I am. And that is a whole societal thing. Now for some facts and figures. So the medical diagnosis is called gender dysphoria. This is as per the DSM-5. So if you're watching that many years in the future, maybe you have a different diagnostic tool. Maybe it's not even in there anymore. But for the moment, now in 2019, this would be gender dysphoria. Being transgender, although it is in the DSM, it is not a mental health condition, which is why I said maybe if you're watching this in the future, it might not be in the DSM anymore. Following up on that, of course, transgender or gender dysphoria is a medical condition, which is why we get medical help for this. This is why things like psychopharmaca or therapy doesn't make it go away. The treatment varies from person to person and is called transition. There will be a later video that goes into detail about this. Then detransition and or the regret of having transitioned is very rare. It really doesn't happen a lot. We are going through a lot of pain, a lot of steps, big changes in our lives in order to transition. We are being checked throughout the way by our general practitioners, by psychiatrists and therapists and doctors. Everybody is making sure we don't have another issue that makes us feel this way. And of course, not every transgender person wants to or will transition. So what I said earlier, the treatment that you get, not everybody chooses to have it. There are different reasons. It might be societal, it might be religious, it might be your family acceptance, your friends, your work environment. There might be a lot of points why you wouldn't transition. And of course, very important, transgender is not a verb or a noun. So somebody is not transgendered or somebody is not a transgender. No, somebody is a transgender woman or a transgender man. Here's a very sad statistic. 31 to 50% of transgender people worldwide attempt suicide. So yeah, I would like to let that sink in for a little moment. These attempted and sometimes or very often successful suicides usually have their root in not being accepted or not having the access to the medical help that is needed. Another interesting number is that between 1 and 3% of the population are transgender. Now, as I put here the importance of respect and acceptance, a lot of people who are watching this video will be like, yeah, of course, we need to respect other people and we need to accept them and it always applies. And kudos to you, you're a very reasonable person, but there is such a thing as hate crime and it happens a lot. So I wanted to make a few points. So you do not have to agree. So whoever, you do not have to agree. You do not have to like trans people. You do not have to be a friend of one. You don't have to support us or even be interested. You do not have to read the science or research anything or go to pride parades, trans pride, or even be an ally. You don't have to do anything. But we do want respect and acceptance. Transgender people exist. There's nothing to agree with. Everybody is different. Everybody needs privacy. So now let's talk about pronouns and names and very common things that people ask or are worried about. Here are a few things that people said or were worried about. It's terrifying to get the pronouns wrong. Somebody who is very sensitive about their gender is going to be offended if I get it wrong. If you ask the wrong person about their pronouns, you might hurt them. But if you don't ask and guess wrong, you might also hurt them. We are focusing too much on the negatives, on the fears and the worries. So please don't be afraid. Here are a few more thoughts that came up that people told me. For example, I don't want to hurt anybody. And the easy answer is that's just not avoidable. You will hurt people, no matter if it's about pronouns or names or other things. It's just always important to acknowledge it and learn from it. Here's another one. I can't ask everybody for their pronouns. And you don't have to ask everybody. Just ask when you're unsure. Then what if I get it wrong? Well, correct yourself and move on. Don't make a big deal. Don't apologize profoundly. Just say sorry and move on. Here's one that I hear a lot, but on the ID it says differently. So you treat it like a nickname. So here's another one. I slipped up. What do I do? Again, There's nothing worse than making it weird. So just say sorry, maybe correct yourself as I said earlier, and then move on and everything is fine. Now let's go into some do's. So use the preferred pronouns. Usually it will be he, she, or they. There are a few others floating around, but these are the most common ones. And yes, they is correct also in a singular. Use the preferred name. So one of your first questions if somebody comes out to you should be, well, what's your preferred name? Or what are your preferred pronouns? And then treat us like normal people, because we are normal people just like you. We look just as stupid as you do when we clip our toenails. Then of course let us use the restroom. Nothing is happening, we just want to pee. And even a transgender woman going to the women's toilet, all she wants to do is pee. There's nothing else to it. And then accept that we may have bad days more frequently. It's nothing personal, but we are fighting with ourselves all the time. We are trying to fit into the world, and sometimes it's just really tough. Ask questions if you're curious, and it's fine, just ask. Of course, while asking questions, also use common sense. As a rule of thumb, if you wouldn't ask the question to your grandma, don't ask anybody else. And of course, feel free to spread this video. Now, a few don'ts: don't deny our existence, because we do exist, obviously. Don't preach to us, don't try to pray it away, don't send us to conversion therapy or things like that. Don't punish us for being who we are, so that ties very much into hate crime, into harassment. Don't say that it's just a phase, even if it's your child or a teenager. Don't say it's just a phase, because usually it's not just a phase. And I will go more into this also in a later video. Don't out us to other people. So if your friend who is not out to other people about this tells you that they are transgender, don't tell other people. It is a very private thing. It proves a lot of trust in you as a friend. So please just keep that to yourself until the person is ready. Don't ask us about our private parts. It's none of your business what's in our pants. We are not asking you about that either. So before considering asking a question about our private parts, also think about your grandma. Don't say you will never be a real man or you will never be a real woman. This is extremely hurtful, and it's not correct either. And don't use backhanded compliments, so things like, wow, you look like a normal man or woman, or wow, I wouldn't have been able to tell. We know that you mean well, but it's not a nice way, because we are just who we are. And just think about somebody saying that to you. You wouldn't want to hear something like this, even if it's meant in a nice way. And don't speak for us. As you can see with this video and many others on the internet, we can speak for ourselves, but we do need allies. So this concludes the Transgender 101 intro video. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comment section and I will get to them. I will answer them either right there or in another video. Thank you for watching.